Adopting a baby is a life-changing decision. So if that's where you are right now and you're thinking about growing your family and you're thinking, I really want to adopt a newborn baby, well, we're going to talk about that in this video. Now, with the overturning of Roe versus Wade, there's been much talk about the hope being that moms who find themselves in crisis pregnancies and who know that they're not able to care for their children, that more of them will actually choose adoption versus abortion. Now, some people argue that that's not going to happen, that moms in those situations, now that Roe has been overturned, are going to choose to parent. Other advocates believe that we're going to see adoptions on the rise. Well, either way, as a believer, our job is to pray and ask God that as many babies as possible would be saved, and also pray for these women who find themselves in crisis pregnancies, that they would choose adoption versus abortion for the sake of their child. If you just decided that you want to grow your family through adoption, or you've been researching for a while trying to figure out the steps to take, I would highly encourage you to download our Adoption Journey Kickstart. You can click the link below to get started. It'll help you take the right steps that you need to actually start your adoption journey successfully, okay? So again, the link is in the description box. Go ahead and grab yours. All right, so how to adopt a baby. So there are 3 different ways that you can adopt a newborn baby, okay? So the first way is through an agency. As many of you know, agencies are really popular. Whenever you Google how to adopt in your state on Google, you'll find a bunch of agencies come up. Agencies are licensed with their state, and what they do is that they facilitate the matching process between an adoptive parent and a biological mom who is looking for an adoptive parent, okay? So they're pretty popular just because I think they probably have more money to advertise. And so you'll find them whenever you're researching all over the United States, okay? There are some good ones and then there are some bad ones, just like anything in life. So if you decide that you want to use an agency for your adoption, my encouragement is to make sure that you do all of the research that you need to make sure that the one that you pick is the right one for your family. I have had families that worked with agencies for years and went nowhere until they worked with us, and then they were able to adopt pretty quickly. So if you check out this story right here, that's a client of ours who actually was with an agency for about 1.5 years or 2 years, where they were going nowhere, and then they joined our adoption program called the Adoption Success Accelerator, and they were able to adopt their baby girl within a year. Okay, so you want to make sure that whichever professional you decide to work with, that they can actually help you with your adoption. The second way that you can adopt a baby is through a lawyer. Some people are surprised by that because you wouldn't think that the lawyer can actually facilitate the matching process between, the adoptive parent and the mom. But in some states, lawyers are actually allowed to do that. So this means that if in your state, the law allows for an attorney to match you, then you can actually utilize a lawyer instead of an agency to help you with that process, okay? And so an easy way to find those lawyers is, again, look it up in your state, maybe call some adoption law firms around your area, and you can ask them, in this state that I'm in, are lawyers able to help with the matching process? And the lawyers will let you know if that is something that's acceptable in your state or not. In my state, in Nebraska, lawyers cannot facilitate matches between an adoptive parent and a birth mom, and so we cannot do that here. Okay, so only agencies in Nebraska can do that. So that's the second way that you can adopt a baby. I mentioned earlier about our student that went through our Adoption Success Accelerator program. We were able to adopt within a year. So if that's you and you were like, wait, I want to know what that is, I'm going to put the link in the description box. You can go ahead and check out our free adoption training on how to grow your family through adoption successfully without losing time, money, or hope in the process. And you'll also learn more about the adoption program if you're interested in joining. So the third way that you can adopt a baby is through consultants. Consultants are not licensed, but what they do is that they help you get your profile in front of as many agencies as possible. So if you work with a consultant as an adoptive parent, they work with you, they get your profile ready, and then they will send that information to as many agencies as possible based on your budget. Some first-time hopeful adoptive parents really like working with consultants just because they like that they are not just stuck with one agency. So if that agency, there's not really a lot of movement happening, they like the idea that they're being shown to a lot of different agencies, meaning that a lot more pregnant moms are looking at their profiles, okay? So that is another option for you. Consultants, just like agencies, there are some good ones, there are some bad ones. So you always want to call, you want to look at their research, you want to look at their reviews, you want to talk to other parents that have used those services, if possible, to really hear from them what their experience was working with that specific professional, okay? The fourth way that you can adopt a baby is by privately matching with the biological mom. That's actually becoming increasingly popular in our culture. Parents are matching through Instagram, through TikTok, through Google, through word of mouth between friends and family. Through my law office, I have been a part of many private adoptions. And in a lot of the situations, it was a word of mouth or friends and family type situation where a friend heard that another friend wanted to adopt. And so they said, hey, I have a friend who's pregnant and who's thinking about adoption. And that's just kind of how it happened. Sometimes it's family members, you know, like the teenage daughter is pregnant and they're trying to figure out what they're going to do. And so one of the family members steps up and says, I will adopt the child. And so it actually happens more often than you think. And again, because of the day and age that we're living in, people are getting matched privately on social media. So what you need to know about self-matching is that even though it's increasingly popular, because what it does, it cuts out kind of that middleman. So you don't have to work with an agency, you don't need to work with a consultant, you don't need to work with a lawyer. You're basically matching with that mom on your own, right? Without any help. People love that option because they're like, wow, that reduces the cost of me having to pay for these professionals to help me match. But what a lot of folks don't realize is that just because you're self-matching doesn't mean that you won't get to pay for a professional. If you are self-matching, you still need a professional involved, and that professional is going to be a lawyer, okay? So if you privately match with a birth mom and she's serious about placing her baby with you and you're serious about adopting, you're going to need to hire lawyers to help you finalize the adoption. I've also had instances in my law office where adoptive parents just went to pick up the baby in a state somewhere without a lawyer being really involved, and it messed things up big time. You do not want to privately match with a birth mom and not have any professionals involved. You need to have lawyers involved, lawyers who know what they're doing, who are experienced, and who can make sure that the paperwork that's being filled out and signed is the appropriate paperwork so that your adoption can actually move through legally in court, okay? So those are really the 4 ways that you can adopt a newborn. Now, some people, when they think about newborn adoption, it like feels yucky, you know, because it feels like you're buying a baby. In some respects, I would agree that that's what it feels like, because the adoption industry has kind of turned into a business of some sorts. And like with anything in life, there's parts of it that are good and some parts of it that are bad. But I want to encourage you to maybe change your perspective about newborn adoption. The way that I see newborn adoption as a believer is to actually be a home that's open to women in crisis. So now that Roe has been overturned, right? The church has been saying abortion is wrong, which it is. It is killing babies. Abortion is wrong. But we now need to start stepping up and taking care of those people who are not able to parent. It's one thing to say abortion is wrong, but if a woman finds herself in a crisis pregnancy situation and she is choosing that, okay, I want this baby to have life, I want to place this baby for adoption, but there's no believers available to adopt that baby, then what good does that do for us to chant abortion is wrong, yet to not being able to be a solution? So the way that I look at newborn adoption is we want to be a solution to one of the crises in our nation. And one of those crises in our nation are women who find themselves in crisis pregnancies for so many different reasons. And I've worked with a lot of them in my law office. And a lot of times we're dealing with abuse, we're dealing with mental health, we're dealing with moms who already have 1 or 2 children and they know they just can't parent the 3rd one that they're pregnant with. And so we want to be a solution as the church. We don't want to just say, that's wrong, don't do that, yet not provide a solution when the person needs it. So if that's your heart and you're like, man, I want to be available. If I know a mom in my community who finds herself in a crisis pregnancy situation, I want to open my door to that. to that woman. I want her to know that we're available to adopt if that's her desire. So that's the heart and that's the mindset that I strongly encourage you to take on when it comes to newborn adoption, because we as the church need to start thinking differently about newborn adoption. Right now in society, the way that newborn adoption is looked at is, this is a way for me to grow my family if I'm not able to have my own biological children. And I know that God works things out in that situation as well, but for me, I think, this is Lucrece's opinion, that our primary motivator for adopting a newborn should be because we're wanting to be a solution to the crisis and a solution to women who find themselves in that situation. All right, so I've said a lot in this video and I hope it was helpful, and I want to do a quick recap. So how to adopt a baby, there's 4 ways. The first way is through an agency, the second way is through a lawyer, the third way is through a consultant, and the fourth way is to self-batch, but you'll still need a lawyer at the end of the day to make it final. All right, so if you want to watch that free adoption training that I talked about earlier and learn more about the Adoption Success Accelerator program, click the link below in the description to check that out, and I'll see you in the next video. All right, thanks for watching. Bye-bye.